We are one sleep away from the start of the Pittsburgh Steelers preseason, but a lot of the starters are not going to play. I'm going to give you some reasons to still watch when the Steelers take on the Jaguars on Saturday night. Welcome into the Arthur Moats Experience. My name is Mark Bergin, and I've got a few storylines for why you should continue to watch the Pittsburgh Steelers on Saturday night. It's astounding how many starters aren't playing, but it's not a surprise for how Mike Tomlin has run things and considering a lot of the veteran players on this Pittsburgh Steelers roster. Let me go through the full list of players not playing because there are several of them, and it includes Aaron Rodgers, DK Metcalf, Jonnu Smith, Pat Freiermuth, Isaac Seumalo, Jalen Warren, Darius Slay, Joey Porter Jr., Jalen Ramsey, Deshaun Elliott, Patrick Queen, Cam Hayward, TJ Watt, Nick Herbig, Chris Boswell. You can also, the following players due to injury: Calvin Austin, Alex Highsmith, rookie cornerback Dante Kent, and Corey Trice Jr. All those players won't play. We'll get to see Mason Rudolph. In an alternate world, he would have been the Steelers starting quarterback if they hadn't signed Aaron Rodgers. You could also make the case that the Steelers, they inquired about Trevor Lawrence in the offseason, and the Jaguars starters will play. Probably won't play for very long, but you'll get to see Travis Hunter, and you'll get to see the Steelers' young offensive line. And I'm talking about Broderick Jones moving over to left tackle, and I'm talking about Troy Fautanu working his way back from a season-ending injury at right tackle. They'll go up against a pretty good duo in the Jaguars with Trayvon Walker, the first overall pick in the 2022 draft, Josh Hines-Allen, 2 off the edge for Jacksonville. Pretty good edge duo, and it's man on man. I mean, there's going to be no stunts. There's no real crazy exotic blitz schemes that you see. It's very vanilla in the preseason. So I'm excited to see how the Steelers' young offensive line holds up, even despite the fact that a lot of the starters aren't playing. I'm also pumped to see a lot of the rookies, and it won't include Will Howard, though. Will Howard's got his hand injury. I'd be surprised if we see Will Howard at all in the preseason. I know Mike Tomlin left the door open for maybe the third and final game that the Steelers have in the preseason, but I'd be shocked if we see Will Howard at all, considering he's got that hand injury. He'll be out for several weeks. Now I was excited to see him. So you'll see Mason Rudolph. You'll see Skylar Thompson get some more reps because fourth stringers hardly get any reps at all. And then Logan Woodside, a quarterback that the Steelers signed. I don't know if you'll see him on Saturday night, but the Steelers did sign him. I expect you to see him at some point in preseason action for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But again, I'd be surprised if, just considering how quickly he was signed, if he even played on Saturday night, given that he needs to learn the playbook. But he does have familiarity with offensive coordinator Arthur Smith in previous stops with different teams that they've been a part of. A few other thoughts that I had with the Steelers edge rushers all sitting out, and I'm excited to see a lot of the rookies, and I'll get into them, but something to keep an eye on is Alex Highsmith and the groin injury that he's had for several seasons now. Dates back to 2021, but he's had groin strains for the last few years. Something to monitor. And so you've got a lot of depth there with TJ Watt, with Herbig off the edge, and Highsmith. Those are your three, but see what Jack Sawyer can do, the rookie coming in, see what he can do. But I'm okay with a lot of the Steelers starters that aren't playing. You know, Rodgers is 41 years old, Cam Hayward 36, TJ Watt 30. Now, speaking of Cam Hayward, this contract dispute that he has, he wants to get paid more money. It's really, really tough because, yes, he's a first-team All-Pro in 2024. He's set to be the NFL's 36th highest-paid defensive lineman this season and the 18th highest-paid defensive tackle. When he re-signed his contract extension, he's among the highest paid, but keep in mind, he's 36 years old. There aren't very many defensive linemen that are older than him, despite the fact that Hayward continues to produce at a high level. And I'm talking about, there's Calais Campbell. There might be a few other players who could sign with teams that are still out in free agency that are either the same age or maybe a little bit older than Cam Hayward, but there's not a huge market for older defensive linemen. And I don't think that Cam Hayward would outright hold out, but certainly players of that position group, like many other position groups in the NFL, have continued to get more and more money as the salary cap increases year over year. And the same can be said about Chris Boswell. He's 34 going into the final year of his deal. And you know that this is being leaked by the players or by the player's agent, because the headline I read about Chris Boswell earlier this week was that, oh, well, he's the lowest paid kicker in the AFC North Division, yet he's the eighth highest paid kicker in the NFL. I know he's coming off an all-pro season, and he was terrific for the Steelers a year ago. I mean, you get across the 50, and it's almost automatic if Boswell's on your team. But he has had 2 bad seasons as a Steelers kicker in years past, and some of that is attributed to injuries that he was trying to work through and play through. But honestly, if I'm Pittsburgh, what is Boswell going to sit out for a year and then try to resume play? And the same could be said about Cam Hayward, to where you signed the deal that you signed, and at what point do teams just say, hey, you've got to play out your contract and then we can renegotiate it when you become a free agent? And both of these players are older players. I don't fault them for getting their money, but that's just the reality of the situation. And they're both really tough situations. But this is where, look, I don't think Cam Hayward would outright hold out. He's been working a lot on the side, but this is why you're excited to see Keanu Benton. And this is why you're excited to see Derek Harmon in the preseason. Derek Harmon, with or without Cam Hayward, is listed as a starter on the Steelers defense right now. They don't do that a lot with their rookie players. They usually do a really nice job bringing them along, but I'm excited on Saturday night to see Derek Harmon, what he looks like in the snaps that he gets. How about Caleb Johnson, the running back out of Iowa? We know Jalen Warren's not going to play, so what can Caleb Johnson do out of the backfield? Mentioned Jack Sawyer earlier. Y.A. Black, the big guy, also from Iowa, up front, and then Carson Bruner as well. I'm excited to see the rookies because this is the first live game action that you see. Look, with preseason, I'll land here. And this is my last thought that I would say about this going into Saturday night. We're all really excited to see the Steelers perform in the preseason. But the outcomes of the actual games don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. And the analogy I make is it's like a war reenactment. It looks like the real thing, seems like the real thing, might smell like the real thing. It's not the real thing, and it really has no bearing on the regular season. The biggest thing I would say is to look for is make sure that you get your team healthy come week 1 of the NFL regular season. Now, I will say this, with the young players, because everything is so vanilla, it's not as schemed up, it's not as game planned as much during the regular season. If you see a young player do well, that bodes well in that player, because a lot of times is that player winning his one-on-one matchup. So that's when you saw when Nick Herbig came onto the scene in the preseason a few years ago, and you saw this dude flying off the edge. It was like, whoa, the Steelers might have something here in an edge rusher. Keep an eye on things like that come the preseason, but it's certainly exciting that football's back. You'll get to see Travis Hunter as well for the Jaguars. I hope that you get to see him both on the offensive and defensive side of the ball, playing both ways, something we haven't seen in several years in the NFL, something that's really exciting. Something that's really, really exciting, a dynamic player out of Colorado and the Jaguars' first-round pick this past year. But those are the things I'm looking for come Saturday night when the Steelers take on the Jaguars. I will be going on with Arthur Moats on Sunday in reaction to Saturday night's game, so keep it here on the Arthur Moats Experience. Enjoy the game. Preseason is back, and let me know what you think about what your thoughts and expectations are for the Steelers in the Inzer chat, in the comments. Let me know what you think. Smash that like button and hit subscribe if you haven't already on the Arthur Moats Experience. Enjoy the game. My name is Mark Bergin, and I'll see you Sunday. Until then, take care, and so long, everybody.